Hello YouTubers, how you doing? Please subscribe to the Dennis Ramsay YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Share the 14,000 videos of Dennis Ramsay on YouTube with your family and friends. Please sub up the Dennis Ramsay YouTube channel. Today's topic is serial killer Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River serial killer in Washington State. Gary Ridgway murdered 50 women that they know of, but personally I think he's probably killed over 100. Anyhow, Gary Ridgway used to paint trucks and cars for a living, and he had a wife. He lived a normal life, but he had a bad addiction to hookers and prostitutes. The reason I think Gary Ridgway killed them is because they were easy prey. I think also that Gary Ridgway enjoyed the sex with the hookers, was a pervert, and enjoyed sexual relations with hookers and prostitutes. I also think he enjoyed killing them, inflicting pain on them. I think also Gary was a sadistic murderer, enjoyed torture and causing pain to these women he was killing. Anyhow, Gary Ridgway murdered 50 women they know of that he was convicted in court of. He's doing life in prison. He'll never get out. He'll die in prison. The only way he's coming out is in a pine box and a coffin. Gary Ridgway murdered 50 women they know of. Personally, I think he's probably killed 100, maybe more. A lot of the bodies they found were decomposed by the Green River in Spokane, Washington. Anyhow, Gary enjoyed sex with the prostitutes, murdering them. Most of the victims Gary strangled to death. Gary was a very quiet man and very calm man, said very little. In the community, they looked at him as a loner, and he isolated himself from the rest of the people in his community. At night time, Gary would go out trolling for hookers and prostitutes. He'd pick 'em up late at night, 12 o'clock, 1 or 2 in the morning, take 'em to an isolated area, rape them, and strangle them to death. Then he would bury the bodies along the Green River in Washington State. Anyhow, Gary was a sadistic, necrophiliac serial killer. He enjoyed sex with dead bodies, the dead prostitutes and hookers. Gary was a loner, isolated, and a lone wolf, you could say. Anyhow, they found trace evidence in his car. Paint chips from the company where he used to paint the trucks and cars. The same paint that was used on these vehicles was identified to Gary Ridgway in his vehicle and at his work placement. Anyhow, Gary was a psychopath, no conscience, cold as ice. I think particularly he was a very sadistic, evil, bad man, just a bad person. He was probably mentally sick. He either had to be a psychopath or a sociopath. How do I know about these type of people? I grew up an orphan, and I spent several years in institutions living with the worst people you could live with that suffered from sociopath, psychopath, bipolar, schizophrenic, so on, so on and so forth. Gary Ridgway preyed on these hookers and prostitutes because of two reasons. He wanted sex, for one. They were easy prey. And who would kick up or put up a fuss of a missing hooker or streetwalker? Nobody. Because the police in Washington State used to look down on the hookers and prostitutes, and if they went missing, nobody cared. Nobody could give a shit. Gary Ridgway picked on hookers, prostitutes, and the down and out, and the homeless women. They were all his victims. Anyhows, I think Gary Ridgway was opportunist. When opportunity knocked, he'd murder a hooker or a prostitute or a streetwalker. He was very clever, very smart, very intelligent, like most serial killers are. But, anyhows, I think what caught Gary Ridgway, they had him under surveillance, and I think more than likely they had him in video picking up these streetwalkers, and the evidence just seemed to draw to him, meaning the paint they used at the company he worked, painting cars and trucks. Also, his DNA was at some of the crime scenes. So I think Gary Ridgway was going to get caught eventually. Anyhow, in court, he pled guilty to 50 counts of murder. Like I said before, I think personally he killed 100, maybe more. There's bodies out there along the Green River that are either buried or in the water that decomposed that they'll never find. Gary Ridgway is doing life in prison. He'll never get out. The only way he'll get out is dead in a coffin or a pine box. Gary Ridgway was very calm killer, very cool and collected, did not panic, and was very comfortable at killing these people and getting away with it. So I think in his natural environment, he was good at what he did. He was a professional serial killer with no conscience and was good at what he was doing, serial killing. I think personally he enjoyed killing these women, and he got great fun out of it, and he enjoyed inflicting pain on these women and torturing them and strangling them to death and burying them and dumping them in the Green River. But anyhow, that's my belief. Do I think Gary Ridgway was ever abused? No. He just enjoyed killing and raping the dead bodies and strangling these women and inflicting pain and grief on these women. He was a sadist. I'd have to say he was a psychopath by looking at him and analyzing what he done. Anyhow, subscribe to the Dennis Ramsay YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Sub up the Dennis Ramsay YouTube channel. I'll be doing more crime videos and giving you my spin on these serial killers and killers in general. I'm going to do true crime videos for the next few months. But yes, Gary Ridgway was an opportunist and enjoyed killing these hookers and streetwalkers and enjoyed the sex. Also was a necrophiliac, enjoyed having sex with the dead bodies. Gary Ridgway did. There's not much more to add to that than the fact he had no conscience and he was a psychopath. A bad individual that was ruthless. Take care and subscribe to the Dennis Ramsay YouTube channel. Bye for now. There's nothing to add to that than what I said. Bye for now.